So on to the final task, and this task we're going to look at a few harder substitutions, but first off I gave you some questions to start with. We had something like 4 times 4. That should have given you 16. 5 times 5, which should have given you 25. 9 times 9 should have given you 81. And 11 times 11, that one's a big one, but check it on the times table, you get 121. What makes all these questions special is I'm timesing a number by itself. And we've got a very special way to write that. You might remember it, but if you don't, it was this. So this one could be written as 4 with a little 2 up there, 4 squared. This one could be written with 5 with a little 2 up there. This one, 9 with a little 2 up there, or 11 with a little 2 up there. So that's called squaring. Remember, we can write it with a little 2, and that means times a number by itself. That's going to be something that comes into our substitutions in a moment. So, like our previous questions, for a equals 3 and b equals 5, we're going to have a few examples. I'll give you a few for you to do to check. Now, we're not going to do loads. We're going to do about 4 examples. First one, we're going to find a squared. Second one, we're going to talk about b squared. Number 3, we're going to talk about what happens with AB. And then we're going to do a few examples for you to do, and then I'm going to talk about one slightly harder thing than any of those. So a squared. Now we replace the a with the number. So that becomes 3 squared. You can check 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. If you want to write that as a step, that might be worth it. 3 times 3. To remind you, that's what squared means. It's not 3 times 2. Not timesing it by 2. You're timesing it by itself. B squared. We'll replace the b with the 5. So we get 5 squared. Let's write that step in. 5 times 5 is what we're doing, which is 25. Just like we had 5 squared up there. Last one. Now this isn't involving a squared, but AB. Now we have to think back to the last video I did and what AB means. Well, that means A times B. If we write two things next to each other, it means times. A times B. So that becomes 3 times 5. Well, 3 times 5, quick times table, gives me 15. So here are a couple for you to do. Have a go. I'm going to give you them in x's and y's. So I'm going to give you the x equals 4, y equals 12. Slightly big number, but hopefully you can remember the times tables. So I want you to find x squared. I'd like you to find y squared. And for your third one, I want you to find xy. Pause the video, have a go, and then I will come back and give you the answers in just a moment. So pause the video, have a go, and then keep watching for the answers. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at those. So first thing, we're putting the 4 in instead of the x. So we have 4 squared. That means 4 times 4. And just like we had back at the starter, that should give us 16. Again, y gets replaced with our 12. So that becomes 12 squared, which is 12 times 12. And that's in your times table, so it's still one that you might be able to look up or you might know. But as I said in the previous one, if you need to use a calculator for these, I want your focus to be on making sure you can do your substitution, not worry too much about being able to make sure you can do that step, which is the timesing bit. But we get 144. xy. That meant x times y. So got 4 times 12. And again, a times table calculation gives us 48. Now, there is one harder thing I'm going to show you, and I'm going to show you it with these numbers here, A and B here. this is going to be example 4. I'm going to find AB squared. Now this is right at the limit of what I'd expect you to be able to do, but hang in there, we'll see how it works. So two things next to each other means times. So that's the same as A times B squared. If we put our numbers in, that is 3 times 5 squared. 5 squared happens first. Now that's an order of operations thing. Always do our squaring first. So that's a little bit tricky, and that's what makes this a really tricky question. Once we know that, 3 times 25, you can either check that on the calculator, or you might be able to work it out just in your head. That's absolutely great. You get 75. So these are much harder substitutions than the one we had in task 2, but have a go at the questions, see how you get on. And actually this skill of squaring things is going to be something that's really useful when we get to our lessons next week. We're going to be doing some squaring in the questions that we're doing. So have a go, see how you get on, and have a go at the check-in task, and that will be everything that you have to do for this week if you've completed that check-in task.